All right, so we're diving into this whole Starlink Maritime thing today.
Yeah.
You're probably already pretty familiar with how Starlink has been kind of disrupting things on land.
Yeah.
But we want to, figure out if it really delivers on the, the open ocean.
Yeah.
So we've got a bunch of reviews and technical specs.
Okay.
We even got some insights from Concord Marine Electronics.
Oh, wow.
They've installed hundreds of these systems on yachts.
I mean, that's really interesting because it seems like Starlink Maritime is kind of pushing the boundaries of what we thought was even possible.
Right.
For connectivity at sea. We're talking speeds that were basically unheard of.
Yeah.
Just a few years ago.
It's true. Like, it is pretty wild.
Amazing.
And a lot of the reviews that we saw highlight those impressive download and upload speeds.
Yeah.
50 to 220 mph down.
Wow.
And then 20 to 50 up.
That's incredible.
It's pretty remarkable.
Yeah. Before we get too excited,
All right.
I'm kind of curious about what the real world experience is actually like.
Yeah.
Is it really as seamless as it sounds?
Well, that's where things get a little, a little bit more nuanced.
Right. Okay.
While the speed potential is certainly there,
Right.
there are some limitations that you need to be aware of.
Okay.
For example, we've been seeing reports of service interruptions
Right.
in certain areas, particularly the Bahamas and the Caribbean.
So even in paradise, there can be connectivity issues.
Yeah, it's true.
I can imagine that being a major frustration if you're,
Right.
trying to do a video call.
Yeah,
Or
I
you're
know.
trying to work remotely.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Picture this.
Okay.
You're in the middle of an important meeting, or maybe you're trying to download, a critical navigation chart.
And suddenly the connection just drops.
Oh, man, that's no good.
Not ideal, especially if you're in a time-sensitive situation.
Especially when you're out on the open water.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That actually brings up a good point about weather disruptions. We saw that a lot of the reviews mentioned that heavy rain or storms or even fog could impact the connection.
For sure.
So, I mean, is that something to be...
I think it's definitely something to consider.
Yeah.
Because Starlink relies on, a clear line of sight to its satellites.
Yeah.
So anything that's kind of obstructing that
Yeah.
can cause interruptions.
Sure.
And then, of course, we also have to think about regulatory constraints.
Okay.
There are some countries
Right.
like Cuba, Turkey, and Taiwan
Okay.
that have restrictions
Entries.
on Starlink Maritime.
So it's not like a universal...
Quite yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Not a global solution.
Okay. And what about power consumption? For people with smaller yachts
Yeah.
or limited energy resources? Is that something that might be kind of a deal breaker?
I think it's definitely worth considering.
Yeah.
Starlink Maritime does draw a fair amount of power
Right.
compared to some other options out there. So if you are on a smaller vessel, you might want to weigh the power requirements against your overall energy budget.
So it sounds like while Starlink Maritime has this incredible potential to really revolutionize connectivity at sea,
I think so.
it's not a perfect solution.
Well, no.
Just not on its own.
Not on its own. Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Okay.
But what's really cool is that there are already some innovations popping up to address these limitations.
Interesting.
And that's where the MDS Blender comes in.
Okay, the MDS Blender.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued. What is this?
So essentially,
Yeah.
what it does is it creates a hybrid solution
Okay.
by combining Starlink Maritime
Right.
with 5G cellular.
Okay.
It's not just a simple backup, though.
Okay.
This thing's intelligent. It's constantly monitoring both connections.
Okay.
And it prioritizes the
So,
one that's performing best at any given moment.
But wouldn't managing two connections be kind of a hassle?
Well,
How does...
that's the beauty of it.
Okay.
You don't have to do anything. It's all automatic.
So the MDS Blender just kind of intelligently switches back and forth.
Exactly. The background. So you always have the most reliable and fastest connection possible.
So if I'm understanding correctly, even if Starlink, experiences a temporary dropout due to weather or an obstruction, MDS Blender would just seamlessly switch over to 5G.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't even notice the interruption.
That's the idea.
Wow.
Yeah. So you could be in the middle of a video call, downloading a large file,
Okay.
or streaming a movie,
Right.
and the transition would be virtually invisible.
That sounds like a pretty elegant solution.
I think so.
To those connectivity gaps that we were talking about.
Yeah, absolutely.
But what about speed? Does combining those two connections actually give you a faster overall experience?
It definitely can.
Okay.
In fact, the MDS Blender has the potential to boost your combined download and upload speeds up to a mind-blowing 1 Gbps.
1 Gbps.
Yeah.
I'm trying to even imagine.
I know. It's hard to wrap your head around.
What you could even do with that speed on a yacht.
Well, imagine downloading a high-resolution nautical chart in seconds.
Wow.
Instead of minutes.
Yeah.
You know, that could give you vital information much faster during, say, an unexpected storm.
Wow. Yeah.
Or think about streaming 4K content.
Oh, yeah.
Without a hint of buffering, even with multiple devices connected simultaneously.
Yeah, it's wild.
It's pretty incredible.
Okay, I'm starting to see why people are calling this a game changer. Yeah. But I do have to ask, wouldn't relying on 5G in, remote areas be kind of a gamble?
Right.
Like, what happens if you're far from a cell tower?
Well, that's a good question. And that's where the intelligence of the MDS Blender really comes in.
Okay.
It's not just blindly switching to 5G.
Right.
Whenever Starlink has a hiccup, its software actually prioritizes low latency connection. Right. So even if 5G is available, it'll actually stick with Starlink if that's providing a smoother experience.
That's true.
For things like, video calls or online gaming.
So it's not just about...
It's not just about speed.
Which connection is faster?
Yeah, it's about which one is more suitable for what you're doing at that moment.
That's pretty impressive.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And here's another neat trick.
Okay.
Selectable IP addresses.
Selectable IP addresses. Okay, what does that even mean?
So basically, it allows you to choose to have a US or UK IP address, even when you're sailing in international waters.
Oh, so it's like you can
trick those streaming services into thinking you're still back home.
Oh,
and that lets you bypass those annoying geo restrictions.
So no more missing out on your favorite shows just because you're in a different part of the world.
That's right.
That's very cool. But where does Concord Marine Electronics fit into all of this?
So they have a ton of experience installing both standalone Starlink Maritime systems and integrating them with the MDS Blender.
So they've seen it all.
They've seen it all. They've tackled all sorts of challenges. And they know what works best in various scenarios.
Plus, they have that amazing reputation. They've got over 155 5-star Google reviews.
That's incredible.
It sounds like they're really the go-to experts.
You really are.
For getting this technology up and running.
Yeah, they seem to really understand the specific needs and challenges that come with maritime connectivity.
It's not a simple thing.
No, they're not just like throwing tech at the problem.
Yeah.
They're actually crafting solutions that are tailored to each individual client.
It's almost like having a tech concierge for your yacht.
Yeah, exactly.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, before we move on to, explore the impact that this kind of seamless internet access can have, let's just take a quick pause to recap what we've covered so far.
Sounds good.
So Starlink Maritime, with its, impressive speeds and growing coverage, it's pretty revolutionary.
For sure.
But it's not without its limitations, especially when it comes to consistent connectivity, in certain regions and weather conditions. And then we have this MDS Blender, this really innovative device that combines Starlink with 5G, creating a hybrid solution that addresses those limitations and boosts performance even further.
It's a pretty compelling combination.
It sounds like it.
It does paint a picture of the future of maritime connectivity.
That's exciting.
But I think it's not just about the technology itself.
Okay.
What I'm even more excited to get into is how this level of connectivity can transform your entire experience when you're at sea.
You've definitely piqued my curiosity.
All right.
Let's dive into that.
Yeah.
Right after a quick word from our sponsor.
Sounds good.
Don't go anywhere. Okay, so we're back.
Thank you.
And
ready to dive in.
Yeah, we're ready to dive into how this level of connectivity can actually change the game for, anyone who lives or works or plays on the water.
Exactly.
It's easy to get caught up in the,
the tech specs.
The tech specs, yeah.
All that stuff.
But I'm really interested in, like, the so what factor.
Okay.
Like, how does this actually impact people's lives?
Right.
In a tangible way.
I think it's a fundamental shift.
Okay.
For centuries being at sea basically meant being disconnected.
Right.
You're almost stepping back in time.
Yeah.
And now with technology like Starlink Maritime and the MDS Blender, now we're kind of bridging that gap.
Yeah.
Bringing the connected world to the open ocean.
With, like, extending that always-on lifestyle to a place where it was previously impossible.
Yeah, exactly.
But let's get specific.
Okay.
How does this translate into real-world benefits for different types of users?
Okay, so let's start with maybe the most obvious one.
Okay.
Remote work.
Yeah.
Imagine being able to work from your yacht anywhere in the world.
Okay, I like where this is going.
You could be sailing through the Greek islands, enjoying the sunshine, the fresh air, while still attending meetings.
Yeah.
Collaborating on projects. And meeting deadlines.
That sounds amazing.
It's pretty idyllic.
But wouldn't those occasional connectivity hiccups be like a nightmare if you're on a tight deadline?
That's a good point.
Yeah.
And that's where this hybrid solution that we talked about really comes into play.
Okay.
The MDS Blender is minimizing those risks.
Right.
By making sure you've always got that reliable backup connection.
Okay.
And remember how we talked about its ability to prioritize low latency connections?
Yeah.
That's crucial for things like video conferencing. It's making sure that your calls stay smooth, even if there's a brief switch between networks.
So even if Starlink momentarily drops out, that MDS Blender just seamlessly switches to 5G.
Right.
And my Zoom meeting continues uninterrupted.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. That's pretty reassuring for anyone who needs to, like, stay productive while they're at sea.
Absolutely.
But what about the folks who are maybe more interested in,
the leisure side of things?
The leisure side of things, Like, how does this enhance the entertainment experience on a yacht?
The possibilities are endless.
Okay, give me some examples.
Okay, so with high-speed, reliable internet, you can stream movies, TV shows in 4K without buffering.
Nice.
You can listen to your favorite music.
Yeah.
You can even play online games with friends back home.
That's pretty cool.
It's like having a floating entertainment hub wherever you go.
I like that.
Yeah.
But what about data usage?
Yeah, that's a good point. Streaming, especially in 4K, can eat up data pretty quickly.
It can.
Yeah.
So how do you...
So I think it's important to understand the different Starlink Maritime plans and their data allowances.
Right.
Some plans offer unlimited data.
Okay.
While others have monthly caps.
Right.
So it really depends on your usage patterns and how much you anticipate streaming.
So it's not just about the tech.
It's also
about
choosing the right plan to fit your needs.
And what about, staying connected with loved ones?
Oh, yeah, that's huge.
Being able to, video call family and friends while you're sailing across the Pacific.
Yeah.
Sharing those incredible sunset views.
Imagine that.
I mean, that adds a whole other dimension to the experience.
It adds a whole other layer.
Right.
Yeah, and for some people, it might even be the deciding factor.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Let's shift gears a bit and talk about safety. We touched on it earlier, but I'm curious to explore how reliable internet access can actually make a difference in an emergency situation.
This is where it gets real.
Okay.
This is where the value of constant connectivity becomes undeniable.
Okay.
So with a stable internet connection, you have access to real-time weather information, updated nautical charts, and even the ability to communicate with emergency services if something goes wrong.
So instead of relying on potentially outdated paper charts,
exactly,
or intermittent radio communication, you've got the most up-to-date information at your fingertips,
right there,
which could be critical.
It could be crucial in a
rapidly changing situation.
Yeah, think about it. You're out at sea. A storm rolls in faster than expected. And you need to change course.
Yeah.
Having access to that real-time weather data and updated charts could mean the difference between navigating safely and getting caught in a dangerous situation.
Sounds like having that constant connection could give you,
I think so,
a huge peace of mind.
Yeah.
Especially for people venturing out on longer voyages or going into more remote areas.
Yeah, it's like having a virtual safety net.
I like that.
Around you, an extra layer of protection and awareness while you're at sea.
But what about the people who argue that being disconnected is part of the allure of sailing?
A good point.
Like being unreachable, truly away from it all is what they seek.
I understand that perspective.
Yeah.
There's definitely something to be said for the peace and solitude that comes from disconnecting from the digital world. But I think we need to make a distinction between choosing to disconnect and being forced to disconnect.
Okay.
With technology like this, you have the option.
Right.
You can choose to unplug. Enjoy the serenity of the open ocean. Knowing that you have that ability to reconnect if and when you need it.
So it's about having the choice.
Exactly.
Having control.
It's about control.
Over your level of connectivity rather than being at the mercy of circumstance.
Absolutely.
And it's like having that lifeline that's always there if you need it. But it doesn't intrude on your experience unless you want it to.
It doesn't have to.
Okay, so we talked about remote work, entertainment, safety. What about the creative potential that this unlocks?
Oh, that's a good one.
Imagine a musician recording an album inspired by
the sounds of the ocean.
Sounds of the ocean, or a filmmaker documenting their journey in stunning 4K.
I love it.
All while at sea.
It opens up a whole new world of creative possibilities.
It really does seem like...
It's like having a mobile studio.
Yeah.
A floating platform for artistic expression.
Right.
All powered by this constant, reliable internet connection.
So we've gone from
covered a lot.
Remote work and entertainment to safety and even creative expression. Right. I mean, it seems like, there's no aspect of life at sea that isn't touched by this level of connectivity.
I think it's a true paradigm shift.
Okay.
You know, we're moving from an era of isolation to an era of connection, even in the vastness of the open ocean.
It's pretty incredible.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah. But let's shift our focus to something a little bit more practical.
All right.
For someone listening to this, completely sold on the idea of having this on their yacht.
Right.
What would be the next step?
Well, I think, as we mentioned earlier, I would definitely recommend reaching out to the experts at Concord Marine Electronics.
Right. They're the ones who...
They guide you through the whole process.
Okay.
From assessing your needs.
Right.
To recommending the right equipment and installation plan.
They can even help you choose the right Starlink Maritime plan.
Yeah, so you don't get hit.
So you don't get hit with those data overage surprises.
With those data overage charges, exactly.
Yeah, that's a good point.
They've dealt with countless installations.
Right.
They've tackled all sorts of unique challenges. And they understand the nuances of this technology in a way that most people don't.
Okay.
They're also up to date on the latest developments and best practices, which is crucial.
Especially in a field that's constantly evolving.
Exactly.
So it's not just about buying the equipment.
It's not just about the tech.
It's about having the right partner.
It's about the partnership.
To guide you through the process and make sure you get the most out of your investment.
It's like this. You wouldn't buy a high-performance sports car without consulting an expert mechanic.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a good analogy.
Same principle applies here.
Okay, so we've explored the incredible potential of this technology.
Yeah.
We've talked about the specific benefits for different types of users.
Right.
And we've even touched on the practicalities of getting it installed on your yacht.
Exactly.
Before we wrap things up, I want to turn it back to you.
Right.
What is the one key takeaway you want our listener to walk away with today?
I want them to remember that this technology is more than just a cool gadget or a luxury amenity.
Okay.
It's a tool that can enhance safety, boost productivity, and unlock a whole new level of enjoyment and connection.
I love that perspective.
Yeah.
It's not just about the tech.
It's about what it enables.
It's about the transformative impact that it can have on your experience.
It's about opening up possibilities that were unimaginable just a few years ago.
It's exciting.
It is exciting.
It's not just about where we are now.
Right.
It's about where we're heading.
It's about the future.
And that's what makes this...
It's so exciting.
Yeah, it really does feel like we're like on the edge of something, like really groundbreaking here.
Yeah.
But before we send our listeners off to explore the show notes and dive deeper into Starlink Maritime and the MDS Blender, I wanted to see if you had any... Any final thoughts? Like, what's the one piece of advice you'd offer to someone who's seriously considering taking the plunge with this technology?
I think it's easy to get caught up in, all the details, the speeds, the coverage, all the bells and whistles. But I really encourage anyone who's considering this to think about the WHY. Like, why is seamless internet access at sea important to you? What would it unlock for you?
I like that.
Yeah, maybe it's about finally writing that novel that you've been dreaming of, surrounded by the tranquility of the open ocean. Or maybe it's about staying closely connected with family while you're on an extended voyage. Let that personal WHY be your guiding principle.
So find your WHY and then seek out the tech that empowers you to make it happen.
Could have said it better myself.
Well, on that note, I think we've reached the end of our deep dive into Starlink Maritime.
It's been a good one.
It has been. We hope this episode has been informative and maybe even a little bit inspiring.
For sure.
A huge thank you to our expert.
Thank you for having me.
For sharing such valuable insights.
It's been a pleasure.
And to you, our listener, we wish you
fair winds.
Fair winds. And following seas as you embark on your own exploration of the connected world at sea.
Enjoy.
Until next time, happy sailing.
Happy sailing.